Hello and welcome to the Capital Games Podcast. I'm the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero, how are you doing this week?
Pretty good. Got in some good monster hunting this weekend with one of my local friends.
Yeah.
It was a awesome time, especially playing on a hardwire land too. So
Nice.
a lot of fun to be had, and just it was kind of great too because we could pretty much just shout to each other and just go, "Yo, watch out!"
Yeah. Oh no. I've always preferred when it comes to cooperative gaming, I always preferred online. I'm mostly a solo gamer, but I do like from time to time playing co-op games. My nephew and I would say years ago when he was like 6 or 7, we beat Cuphead for the first time together. And I mean, I carried most of the time, but he held his weight too. But we had a blast playing that on my PC. So I do like cooperative games. But yeah, that's pretty fun. Yeah. Well, with that, I'm glad you had a good weekend. But let us get into the news, shall we? We got some big ones and small ones, so a little bit of a diverse plate of things that we can talk about. So let's get with the big story this week, Zero. And this story, everyone heard of, and I think everyone wants a bunch of takes on this. And this is Sony raising the price of the PS5 in all regions except US, except not. We'll get to that in a second. So basically, Sony had a press release on their PlayStation blog that essentially said that they're increasing the price of the PS5 in all regions except for the US. They cited the cost of materials to make the PS5 and inflation as the reason as to why they have to do this. This is not only rare, this is unheard of in the games industry. This may not be so unheard of in tech in general. So people who may not be into the gaming industry may not think of this as a big deal. But because in tech, this happens often. But in the gaming industry, no, that doesn't happen at all. Most hardware manufacturers bend over backwards to not only keep the price the way it is, but to sometimes drop it. Sony doing this now is really unheard of. So, Zero, what are your thoughts on Sony raising the price of their PS5?
It's a bit weird because I think the criticism that I've seen kind of worldwide has been just, normally consoles go down in price. They don't go up in price, has been
Right.
the main criticism that I've seen. But at the same time, we've seen this sort of similar trend with the Oculus, the Meta Quest 2 headset bumping up in price as well too. So it's a really weird time to see this happen, to say the least.
I would say with the Meta Quest, even though I thought that was a bad idea in itself too, the Meta Quest is, I would say, some may disagree with this and that's fine. It's in a different category. It's technically gaming, but it's more of a tech product than it is, I would say, a gaming product. But the other thing as well to keep in mind is that the Quest is probably the most affordable of the gaming of those virtual reality goggles. There's also the HTC Vive, which is I think $1,000 in order to buy it.
Yeah.
Whereas Sony just made their PlayStation 5 the most expensive console on the market by raising its price. That's, I think, a key difference. But you have a good point. Meta did raise the price of its Meta Quest, possibly giving Sony the insight and the possibility of doing it themselves. But Meta had, I would say, not a great excuse, but a better excuse as to them saying, oh, we need this in order to innovate more in the field, which more or less sounds like we put too much money into this and we need to make more. So there is what it sounds like there. Whereas Sony, I would say, doesn't need to do that at all.
Pretty much just it's a bit interesting that the price is going up and they're citing higher materials cost. And that part I can somewhat see on a tech end because of the fact that right now, just for anyone who's not familiar with what's going on in China, the Chinese Communist Party has been on this tear for this zero COVID sort of thing going on,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a bit wacky because um, they're pretty much like if there's even one case of COVID, they'll shut an entire factory down, even if 99% of the other workers just don't have any sort of issues or anything. So it's kind of just a strange sort of situation going on. And of course, this has been impacting a lot of chip manufacturers. And then on top of that, there's been news of power outages in Sichuan province, which does a lot of microchip manufacturing as well too. So that's been yet another blow to manufacturing as a whole. So I mean that piece I guess I can understand um, here and there, and then of course the fact that inflation is going on is kind of wacky too, because of course um, just inflation means the console goes more expensive, and some people are just going to skip out and say, okay, well, never mind, just was going to buy a PS5, but not for that much more, I guess.
Yeah, I mean and that's going to be the result here. In all those what do you call it? In all those regions except the U.S. that they're going to raise the price. The people who don't have it are now going to say, "Oh God, I'm going to have to spend an extra 50 euros or 50 Australian dollars to get this," whereas the Xbox is the same price it was before. You just gave your competition a new reason for your gaming system not be bought. Uh, yeah, I'm stunned by this, honestly, because Sony technically doesn't need to do this. I think. I mean, you mentioned the cost of materials and that China's having its issues, but let's get into Microsoft. Microsoft uses, I would say, the same parts to a certain extent. Maybe, maybe the only thing that is different is maybe the controller parts for the DualSense. But like Microsoft isn't raising prices, and those of you can say, "Oh, well, Microsoft has X more money than Sony." Sony has billions of dollars. Okay, that just because they don't have as many billions as Microsoft doesn't mean that they can't swallow it for a little bit while this is going on. What are the analysts saying as to how long this shortage is going to go? A year, maybe, if that.
As far as that goes, I know that uh, the Intel CEO, he was predicting this whole chip production shortage
Mm-hmm.
may go on until 2025. At least
Okay.
that's his speculation on it. And I mean, I've seen some other analysts speculate that we'll be over this whole tech hurdle around 2024 because supposedly that's when the chip fabs that are going up in Europe and the US will be stood up, and at that point, just they'll be sort of transitioning some of the production to more local sites.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to say, especially because there's honestly no telling what hurdles the chip fabrication factories could have because you don't know. I mean, in maybe in 2 years' time from now, there could be some sort of drastic tech emergency that happens, and they can't get the essential bits and pieces to build these chip fabrication machines. I have no idea. I'm no fortune teller, so
Yeah.
um, it's just hard to say. And as much as a pessimist as I am, sometimes I probably would say that Intel CEO making the prediction that we may not be out of this until 2025, I would say that's probably going to be right on the money.
Do you do you feel the raising of the price for the PS5 was warranted, or is this what some people think? Is this Sony basically recognizing, well, we're the market leader, people want our console, even if they have to pay more money, they'll get our console, so why not raise the price?
I think this is Jim Ryan pulling a Neo Geo.
Okay.
And for anyone who's not familiar with the history of the Neo Geo MVS, which was the no, excuse me, the AES, which was the home console, Neo Geo used to sell this home console that was 1-to-1 equal to their arcade cabinets, but it had a whopping price of $700. And that's not a joke.
No, I remember that. And weren't the
So
games like $200 each too?
200 to 500 a cartridge.
I remember that.
Pretty much Neo Geo's logic back in the day was, if people want it, they will go out and buy it. And of course, just that's a lot of money to cough up. First off,
Oh, definitely.
especially in 1995 or 1996, and so just that's just a lot of cash to cough up in the first place. And then the fact that on top of that, just game cartridges cost anywhere from $200 to $500 a cartridge for the Neo Geo. Completely bonkers, insane stuff.
Yeah.
So, and of course, just because of that, just the Neo Geo was sort of a bit of a market failure because, well, just they didn't sell very many of them, and unfortunately, that's also turned these consoles into collector's items.
Right.
And for anyone who wants perspective, $700 in 1996 was would be the equivalent of $1,300 in today's money. Just to give you an idea of how expensive the Neo Geo was.
Yeah.
So, I think that's sort of the strategy Jim Ryan's playing, which is, hey, we're the market leader. We've got the best, the most critically beloved games on our console. People are gonna still want to buy our console. Just price raise be damned, and people will go out of their way to pay the extra money to buy our console because they're going to say our console's worth it.
Right.
But at the same time, you've got a very, very clever play by Microsoft, because Microsoft had kind of decided to clown on PlayStation for this and basically said, oh yeah, so our competition's talking about raising prices due to inflation and materials cost. We're not doing it. We believe that we have some of the best games and we offer the most value to our gamers, so we see no reason to raise our price.
Right. And and this really is the return of PS3 Sony, to be apt to me, as someone who's been following the gaming industry for so long now. This is PS3 Sony all over again, and I think it's worse than that now. Them basically saying, not only raising the price, but saying you'll buy it anyway, is just such a bad look, especially for a company that raised prices to $70 on their games, who also is releasing a game this week, which we'll get to later, that is $70, that a lot of people, including fans of the series, are saying that's too much. So they're becoming more and more, I would say, customer adverse, I guess is what I would call it, where they don't look at customer value as an important thing. They just think, oh, if you want our stuff, and you do, you'll buy it. So suck nuts, pal, and that's it. I wouldn't be so shocked if they raised game prices to $80 in the next year or so, calling their games premium experiences and saying, if you want our premium experiences, you can spend an extra $10 on it. Like I'm just, as a customer thing, this is horrible. And yeah, technically people will say, oh, if you don't have the PlayStation 5 right now, you're technically not a customer. Okay, sure. But do you want to be one of those customers that had to pay $50 to $70 extra for something that other people didn't have to? You don't want to be that person. You know what they call you in most terms? A schmuck. They don't. You want to be felt like you're a schmuck. You want to think that you had you got a fair price for what you got. And another thing that people don't really talk about here is the fact that, yeah, Sony's first party games are critically acclaimed and they're beloved, but they're not the biggest selling games. The biggest selling games and the most popular games are third party games. Call of Duty, Madden, FIFA, those games. If someone is looking to get the new Madden, new FIFA because they're not updating the old games from the PS4 and Xbox One anymore. They said, well, I gotta go get the new system then. They go to the store and they say the Xbox Series X for $500, but they see the PlayStation 5 for $570. They're gonna get the Xbox because, well, it plays FIFA, so why the fuck do I care? And they're gonna lose that sale.
Yep. And then it's also a double whammy attack from Microsoft's end because typically with all the Xbox consoles, be it the Series X or the Series S, you typically get a trial card for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate for at least 3 months.
Right.
And
yeah.
And with that, just Microsoft can kind of loop you in and go, hey, I know times are tight right now and money's hard, but look into our service. We're cool because you can play all the hottest games for just about 15, 16 a month, and yeah, you don't have to run out to the store and buy the disc. You can just preload that shit and get it ready on release date, and then when the release date comes, boom, you're ready to rock and roll with all your friends online or play a single player game in the comfort of your own home.
Sony itself also has problems with its service and with its system to a certain extent. This is a personal problem with me. My old PS4 games is on a external hard disk drive, and what I used to do is connect the hard disk drive to the PS5 to play all those games. After a certain update, something happened where if I plug in that external hard drive, the system freezes completely. And I've contacted Sony, and they don't know what the problem is. They said wait for a future update, essentially. And I'm not the only one who's had this problem. Some have had this problem since day one, and have pretty much said, "Yeah, I'm not even connecting that hard drive at all until I know it 100% works." And I got lucky. My problem was only it freezes the system. And then as soon as I plug it out, it unfreezes, which is really weird. Some I've heard that if they plug it in, it bricks their system. Or it just hard locks and they have to unplug it from the wall and plug it back in and then have to rebuild the database each time they do it. Like Sony, and I will also say, as an owner of both the Xbox and the PlayStation 5, the Sony UI is not that great either. So it's slow, it's cumbersome, it doesn't look great in a visual perspective. Xbox, although it's the same as it was in Xbox One, it's clean, it's fast, it's snappy. There are a lot of things that, despite it being $500, I don't find it to be a premium system to a certain extent. Because when you think of a premium system and you're paying extra for that system, you're expecting quick, snappy, beautiful, things like that. And I don't see that with the PS5. So you're now just giving people more excuses to put a bigger microscope on your console and basically judge it more, essentially. Just to now nitpick and say, oh, well, PlayStation Plus goes down sometimes, like stuff like that, to de-incentivize them to spend more money on your system. So I will make this prediction. I think we'll find in the next couple of years, as this price increase stays, that this will just be to Microsoft's benefit, and they'll start making more sales than PlayStation. Like, if this stays for, I would say, 2 years, I can see Microsoft being the market leader just by this alone.
Oh yeah, because the way when you look at it from a consumer's point of view, like maybe a mom or an aunt or an uncle or a dad who's trying to decide for their little son or daughter which big system to go with, they're if they're not gamers, they're going to look purely on the value.
Mm-hmm.
And when they see that the Xbox Series X is just a little bit cheaper, they're just gonna go, yeah, I'm gonna go with this Xbox thing. I mean, sure, little Jack or Jane or may bitch because it's not a PlayStation and it's not what all their friends are on, but they'll get over it, especially with the fact that Game Pass is tied to their Xbox purchase, and it'll be just kind of this nice convenience thing of, hey, we don't have to go buy games anymore. Just I pay $15 a month, you get all the new games, little Jane or little John, and just boom. Parents don't have to worry about running out to buy the new $70 game right at launch.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be really interesting to see if this price increase does hit North America. That's going to be where the rubber hits the road, because if that happens, then yeah, I can easily see even more movement just in the West for just people to go, yeah, sure, the Xbox Series X isn't as good as the PlayStation 5 power-wise, but man, oh man, they offer one hell of a value with that Game Pass
Right.
whole thing. And hell, that even ties into our next story.
Well, before we get to that story, I want to mention that technically you're right. The PlayStation 5 has not risen its price. However, the best way for you to get a PlayStation 5 right now is through PlayStation Direct. And the only model that they have in stock usually is the $550 model of the PS5 or the PS5 digital with a copy of Horizon Forbidden West. Now, some will argue that doesn't count. You're getting a game with it. I would beg to differ, because it doesn't cost that much more money to put an extra game onto a system, for you to purchase the system. You're not rebuilding the PS5 every time because you have a new game. In fact, you're not getting custom plates, I think, for that game either. All you're getting is the game, which honestly, materially will cost them an extra $2 to $5 to just plop the game in there, and then
Not even that, because all it just comes with is literally a paper voucher with a PSN code. So
really,
I would
even if
say,
you get the disc version.
yep.
Wow.
And so the margin for printing that piece of paper, probably 1 to 5 cents. And then, since it's a first party game from one of the Sony internal studios, giving that away is probably damn near nothing.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So then they raise the price further in order to get that, because most people, okay, when your console is, when you need to get more money and more sales, you increase the value. You don't increase the price. That's what most gaming companies have done. In order to prevent them from raising prices on consoles, they throw an extra game in there to make it more enticing, so somebody will want to purchase it. But you don't raise the price when you do it. So, I just said it before, I'll say it again. This is going to hurt Sony the longer this goes on, because if they are the most expensive system out there now, when previously they weren't, that's the really crazy thing. If they're the most expensive system out there now, they're going to be treated with much more scrutiny when it comes to people who haven't bought the system yet. I could see some people who are fans of the PS4 going to purchase a new system and going, yeah, but if I buy the Xbox, I can get Xbox 3 months of Game Pass and enough money to get an extra game on top. Why would I get the PlayStation? So yeah, this is going to be, I think this is going to be a bad thing. And if they're smart, has the price the hike happened already, or is there a specific date that when they're implementing this? Because if they haven't implemented it yet, somebody's got to be talking to them saying, "Yo, this is a bad idea. We need to stop this."
I'm on Best Buy Canada,
Hmm.
and it looks like the prices are now in effect.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
man, oh man, it looks terrible.
Yeah.
Um, so, the PlayStation 5 disc console, $650.
Yeah.
Digital console, $519.99. The Horizon Forbidden West bundle with the disc drive, $719.99 cents in
Yeah.
Canadian, and then 589.99 for the digital edition.
Yeah. That looks terrible. I don't know what exactly they're thinking on that. Well, I know exactly what they're thinking. We're the market leader. You want you want our stuff. This is what you need to do to get it. And you'll get it because you love us. That's what they're thinking. And it's only going to last so long until these, like, you're going to have your diehards, sure. But most regular people aren't diehards. They just want the best console that will play the games they want. And unless it's like a market drop off, like a Switch, they're going to look at the Xbox, look at the PlayStation, see no difference, and say, I'll get the Xbox. So, I don't know. I think this is a bad move on their part. And I think they're going to eat this in ways that they're not anticipating.
I think with our next story, that this will be further salt in the wound for Sony.
Yes. Good point, Zero. So our next story, there are regions in the world right now that are getting access to a new tier of Game Pass called Game Pass Friends and Family. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically a family plan for Game Pass, where someone pays X amount, and they are allowed up to 5 people to share their the Game Pass with them. Is that
Yeah.
okay? I don't know.
So I
Go ahead.
can go into a little bit more detail.
Go
So
ahead.
right now, there are two regions who are getting essentially a beta trial of the Xbox Game Pass for family and friends. The regions are Ireland and Colombia. And for perspective, the individual Xbox Game Pass Ultimate price in Europe is right around, I want to say, um, almost 13 euros, which is roughly equivalent to about 15 US dollars.
Hmm.
And so far during this beta test that's going on in Ireland, the cost of the Xbox Game Pass family and friends plan is 21.99 euros per month. And by rough approximation, that would mean the US price is going to be about 24.99.
Okay.
And it lets you basically have one primary member and then four sub members that are family or friends.
Okay.
So um, if you get all 5 slots filled up, then pretty much just everyone pays in about $5 per month, which when you think about it, it's one hell of a deal.
Yeah, absolutely. $25 a month for 5 people to get Game Pass. Is that Game Pass Ultimate or is that Game Pass on Xbox?
Yeah, that is Game Pass Ultimate.
God, that's a great deal. I mean, that's fantastic. With PlayStation, you would have to buy each one individually, correct? Like
Yeah,
there is no, yeah.
there's no family plan. The only way that you can have family members sort of kind of piggyback on your PlayStation Network plan is if that user is tied to your physical PS5
Hmm.
and your account is considered the primary. So that's literally the only way to sort of do that. And it's very clumsy.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just so clumsy. And this is going to just be more salt in the wound for Sony because again, just um, you're just going to have more people go, hey, so there's this Xbox Game Pass family thing. Okay, so, um, uh, both parents and 3 kids in one family get this whole thing for 25 a month, and they can play all the games that they want.
hmm
Yeah, that's just going to be a really hard deal to pass up.
yeah, absolutely. this goodwill is only going to help Microsoft further. And yeah, some people will say, well, Microsoft can afford to do it. Okay, so Microsoft does not have to do this. They can do the same tactics Sony's doing, but they're not doing it. They're going towards the value crowd. And what a lot of people that are fanboys of any of these systems fail to realize is that they are the vast minority when it comes to all this. People prefer on the most part they prefer value over, I would say, prestige, or over I'll explain it this way. People would prefer to get a capable phone than the most expensive iPhone. Like, they would
Yeah.
rather pay $500 for, let's say, a Google Pixel that will do everything they need than spend $1,500 on an iPhone that has all the gadgets, all the stuff, when they won't need most of it. That's what most people are like. And those people are going to be attracted to this and will want to have an Xbox for this as well, especially if you have multiple Xboxes. Like, if you have a Series X, a Series S, an Xbox One, and a PC, I mean, now you have 4 ways that you can use this program on different profiles. That's fantastic. I mean,
Yep. And then, of course, there's also cloud gaming too. So
yeah,
if you have a capable smartphone and a controller, or you're playing a game that is compatible with touch controls, yeah, yet another way you can play your Xbox stuff, even if you're away from your Xbox. And the real interesting thing is that for anyone wondering about the friends part of this family and friends plan, Microsoft has clarified that all the family plan members do not need to live in the same household.
yes,
So if you're a parent whose kids are going off to college, yeah, technically, you could set up Xbox Game Pass family and friends. So your 2 kids that are off in college in another state, yeah, they could technically access everything and log on and play from their Xbox on the college campus, while you as the parents can just kind of hang out and play whatever you want at home.
yeah,
And really, the only restriction is that you have to be in the same country. That's the only restriction that Microsoft has clarified. So,
makes sense.
yeah. So, I mean, it's not like you can call up your cousin out in the UK or something and say, "Hey, I've got a couple slots. You want in?"
Oi, thanks, Governor. But yeah, this is a fantastic deal. And it sounds like, one, it's getting positive buzz, and two, that Microsoft will eventually go through with this. So yeah, this is only making Microsoft look even better. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and this is weird because very rarely does the gaming industry really have to deal with value when it comes to purchasing consoles. So at this point, like, Microsoft's cornering a different market now, where they say, yeah, you can get the PlayStation 5 premium, was what I was looking for, the word. You can get the quote-unquote premium console at a premium price. Or you can get the same things you can get on PlayStation for us for $100, for $50 cheaper, and we'll provide a service that'll let everyone in your family play without having to buy $60 subscriptions for each profile every year. So which would you choose? And I would choose Xbox, to be completely honest. So yeah, this is a fantastic deal, and it's only going to make Microsoft look a lot better.
This is also a great move, considering that some legal documents were recently unsealed, showing how behind in sales Microsoft was in compared to PlayStation during the Xbox One PS4 era.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Xbox was behind, selling one console for every 2 PS4 consoles sold. So
Yeah.
this is another way to make up and gain ground. And what people don't get is, of course, they'll just look at it and go, well, Microsoft's losing money on this, and how the hell can they afford to do this? And I always go back to the Gillette Razor Lost Leader play that has been around in the world forever, which is just Microsoft. I believe they break even on the Xbox Series X consoles, and I think they earn a little bit more for the Series S consoles, so they don't get much there, but they just hook you in with Game Pass Ultimate, which is just pure gravy on top.
Yeah.
And then just they provide what seems to the average user to be a value, so the users don't end up stopping their subscription, and pretty much just the money comes rolling in. And even if it isn't that much money, Microsoft also is playing the server game with their Azure services. So if the Xbox division loses money, one could presume that they could just borrow some money from the Azure division and just fill in the deficit and go, yep, we're still afloat, guys. Doesn't matter to us. I can't wait for this to go live because I know I'll be setting it up for my household, but I'll probably end up talking to some of my family and see if they want in so
Yeah.
they can just get linked up, and I'll just say, don't worry about it. I'll pay for the subscription. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah. I think if my nephew gets an Xbox, which I don't think he will, but if he does, I would definitely set up this plan and let him have that as well. So, yeah. Sit down, have your hot cocoa, and let me tell you the tale of the time when people believed that Amazon was going to buy EA. It was just not but Friday of last week. I can't keep doing this. Friday of last week. Basically, in the morning, I'd say around, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, about 7 or 8 Eastern.
Good luck, have fun. GLHF, part of USA Today's For the Win blog, put in a article basically stating that they had confirmation that Amazon was about to purchase Electronic Arts. There was no talk of how much. They said that announcement was forthcoming, and we should expect the announcement by the end of the day. Exciting news, right, Zero? I mean, that with all of acquisition talk and everything going on with Embracer Group, with Microsoft buying Activision, that's exciting, right?
Yeah, especially with EA making talk for the last couple of months that they were trying to find a buyer and everything.
Yeah.
It was pretty much, okay, I guess the saga of EA looking for a buyer has been completed.
Right, and the rumored people that they were saying was going to purchase them was either going to be Amazon, Disney, or there was one other. I think it was Tencent was the other one. I might be wrong on Tencent, but there was a third one that I remember. But anyway, so this story didn't last for... Okay, this story lasted for about 20 minutes. And it ended in spectacular fashion when CNBC caught the story, brought in a analyst and reporter who was familiar with EA and Amazon, who basically went on air and said, "Nah, fam, this is stupid. This is not happening. There's no way." I have talked to people on both sides. Unless someone's doing it behind their backs, they're not doing it. It's not happening. This is what he called a Swedish meatball of a story, and said, "No, this isn't happening. Forget it." And sure enough, by the end of the day, nothing happened. We're talking about this for two reasons. Okay, one is basically an analyzation of how it got started, how it ended, and how everyone reacted to the story. And two, what eventually is the aftermath, which is the final piece of this, what happened today. And I'll get to the second piece now. Basically, it took a few days for USA Today to go onto the article that it was posted and excoriate GLHF by basically saying that this violated our standards for sources and quotes, essentially. I forget what the actual terminology they use.
Sources and quotes from an anonymous tipster or something to that effect.
So, yeah. Basically what that means is they made this up essentially, or either that, or they believed somebody who had next to no knowledge of the situation and made the story about it. And we'll discuss why possibly USA Today did that, aside from not except for taking a reputational damage. But Zero, what do you think of the whole saga of the fake saga of EA being bought by Amazon?
It was one hell of a fireball, just
Yeah.
because I remember seeing just this story pop up in my news feeds when I was waking up to start my day and everything. I was just like really? Well, that could possibly happen, but there would just be so many legal complications, especially with EA doing a couple Star Wars games here and there. Just there's so many legal implications, and with Amazon being not only a web services company but an entertainment company now with producing their own TV shows and stuff. Yeah, this just seems like a legal minefield, but I've seen stranger shit before. And then of course, the CNBC broadcaster bringing in one of the financial specialists who was very familiar with both EA and Amazon, and pretty much just saying, yeah, this is bunk and this is complete bullshit. And then at the same time that this is happening, the stock price on EA is just tanking at the same time, and it's just like, ooh, it looks like somebody may have tried to prop this to do a pump and dump. Ooh.
Yep, essentially. And
so yeah, and just seeing all that happen, I was just like, ooh, this the fallout from this should be real interesting. And then of course by the end of the day, just was like, oh yeah, this wasn't a thing. And it was just like, oh, either someone's gonna get fired, or someone's really gonna be in for it. It was the first thought I had in my head.
This is an interesting story in many aspects. You talked about the financial side, where it kind of, and I think you are kind of right on that it seemed like a possible pump and dump scheme, where someone probably bought a bunch of Amazon stock, or I think it was EA stock, right? They bought a bunch of EA stock, and as the story went out, it climbed up and up and up and up and up, where someone would then say, okay, time to cash in. Get a quick cash in, and they made hundreds of thousands to maybe millions of dollars on that before it tanked. This is also a journalistic story, because and it points out to one thing which I'm actually, I gotta give credit, because I do give a lot of shit to a lot of outlets for doing this. And it seems like not a lot of outlets did this until they waited, but they waited to see what happened instead of just posting the story. Most in previous situations, they would just post a story, rumor this is what's happening, or analyst confirms that this is happening, and that didn't happen this time, which to me is good, because it makes it sound like that these people are actually learning something and saying, hey, we need to stop doing this, so let's work our sources before we do the story. I think it was Jason Schreier who was the first one that said, was basically saying, I'm waiting on information on this before I say a damn thing. And sure enough, after he said that, is when the analyst on CNBC pretty much said, yeah, this is bunk. Forget it. This is not happening. So that's the journalistic story. There is the story basically of USA Today pretty much throwing their, I guess it's a Good Luck Have Fun as one of their partners. They basically threw them under the bus, basically saying, yeah, you guys screwed up big time here. So we're not taking the reputational hit, you are. So, good on them, I would say. I would love to hear more about this, because I think there's more to this story than we're going to be told on this. So, because USA Today not only had to do this for reputational damage purposes, but also financial legal purposes. Because at this point, they were the only ones who had the story, and the story was big enough to, like you mentioned, climb the price stock up. And then when it turned out to be absolute bunk, the price went way down afterwards. So that could cause a whole bunch of legal problems for them. So they had to do it to that extent as well. So yeah, this was a fascinating story. I remember when we discussed it on our Discord, we were more interested in the ramifications because I mentioned the whole Star Wars thing. It's like there's no way that Disney will want to work with EA if they're working for Amazon now. I mean, some disagreed with that, thinking, oh, they're two different businesses altogether. It's like, not really, but okay. But we didn't really even get... This went by so fast. We didn't really get into the conversation of whether this was real or not. That's how fast this was. So, yeah, interesting story. I would say that happened.
I think it's just really funny in this age of just where information just flies so fast on services like Twitter and everything that, you know, just sometimes it's not a good idea to believe everything
No.
you see on the internet.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and it's just one of those things that I've bemoaned for ages, that, you know, people are so quick to just jump on whatever thing they hear on the internet, um and I've railed many a time about it. But yeah, just to see something kind of happen just and unfold in real time, it was kind of amazing to see just what a dumpster fire this was.
I will reiterate again. It seems like most websites stood back to make sure what the story was and if this was happening, and that paid off for them because they didn't all look like fools when it came out that this was false. So I will give them credit for that. Although honestly, that's pretty much saying to somebody, "Hey, don't punch that person. Good boy." That's essentially what the good job was. Basically, doing something you shouldn't be doing anyway. But since the gaming and the gaming press tends to fall for that almost every single time, I feel like I need to give them a pat on the back on that. You're probably gonna get more in depth into this next story. So, Zero, why don't you go ahead and get into something that happened with the Brok the Investigator devs?
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting story, and it's also a bit of a consumer advocacy story to not buy game keys from gray market sellers such as Kingwin, G2A, and others of their ilk. So, an interesting sort of thing happened where a developer of Brok the Investigator had posted a giant Twitter mega thread that spanned over 16 tweets saying, "Hey, I have reason to believe that I may have been hit by shady gray market resellers, and this is all the bits and pieces I have to put out in front of the world, and let you, the world at large, make what you will of the evidence that I've been able to gather." And pretty much, story goes that right before release, as usual, game developers will typically get a glut of emails from just random people saying, "Hey, I work with a streamer. Hey, I work with this small publication. Hey, I am a guy who runs a small Twitch channel and plays independent games." Just whatever whatever sort of story that the person may have, just they will run to these developers and you know, just kind of set up their story and say, "Hey, I'd like to review your game. Could I have 3 to 5 game keys so I can distribute them across my staff and maybe do giveaways?" Just whatever excuse you can think of.
Right.
And typically, this isn't really the way you're supposed to approach developers to get keys, especially with especially if these people are Steam curators, because Valve has provided a system to give curators access. But we'll get into that into the later part of the story.
Yeah.
So pretty much just what the developer for the game did was he had sent an email saying, literally in the body of the email, "Hi, I'm going to send you a prologue key. Um, if you if you notice if you have an issue that this is a prologue key and need the full key, or if you play the game and hit the stopping point of the prologue, please feel free to approach me, and I will give you a full game key to continue your evaluation of the game." And I believe in the thread he had mentioned that out of the 25 emails that he had replied to, only 3 people actually noticed or played and hit the point that the prologue ended, followed back up with him and said, "Hey, this is a cool game, but I've hit a dead end," or "Hey, you gave me a prologue key. Can you give me an actual key?"
Yeah.
And he gave those people just the full retail key, and no issues there. The game got some good press from these few individuals that had requested the full game key. What makes it interesting is there are the others that didn't reply. All of a sudden, they have positive curator reviews saying, "Oh yeah, super great game, does all these great things," and it was just almost sort of a very similar copy pasta on these curator pages.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is where it gets interesting. So turns out some of those curators are actually very, very, very scummy key resellers. So what likely happened, and this was also covered in the developer's Twitter thread, was these shady curators immediately took these prologue keys, turned them around on sites like Kingwin, G2A, and so on, and basically advertised them as Brok the Investigator full game key, $7 or some sort of ridiculous price that's much lower than the $20 that the game is going for. And likely their customers bought it, and then the customer realized once they hit the prologue ending, they were just like, "Yo, what the fuck? I got ripped off." So, nasty, angry email to the reseller. The reseller then turns around, changes that glowing positive review for the game into a negative one with some made up reasons of involving stuff that never happened in the game or whatever. And it was just like a light switch when this happened. And sure enough, just the developer sort of put 2 and 2 together and matched up these curators with people he gave prologue keys to, and coincidentally didn't reply. And so just he had sort of said, "Hey, just kind of a fair warning to any developers out there: be wary on who you give keys to, and please use the Steam curator function where you can provide access directly to a curator without having to share a product key, where you just directly link them access to your game."
Yeah.
But the other thing that the developer also lamented was the fact that just even though he had given the curators, the scammy curators, prologue keys, they were somehow able to post their review on the full version copy of the game. But turns out that that's kind of on Steam, that curators can rate anything, and no matter if they own it or not. So that's kind of a problem on Steam. But the story kind of comes to a funny and ironic ending, because early this week, some folks on Reddit decided to kind of piece together the story from what the developer had, but they also decided to capture screenshots of these really scummy little curators who are masquerading as curators and everything, and had shown that they seemed to have a consistent pattern that at any games that they would end up picking up keys for, glowing positive reviews, but anything that didn't really bend a knee and give them a free key, bad reviews all over the place for those developers who didn't. And when the developer Brok, the Investigator, had sort of posted their pages with their actual names uncensored, and this whole investigation across the internet sort of picked up a little bit of speed. All of a sudden, all of these bad curator pages suddenly and magically today changed their bad reviews of Rock the Investigator to good reviews.
Yeah.
So kind of a funny turnaround on the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was a wild situation.
Yeah. I was always, when we used to review games for a website that we used to write for, I was always surprised how easy it was for us to get game codes. There were times where we purchased the games on our own, but for the most part, I was easily able to go to the developers and say, hey, I write for this site, I do this podcast, we review games, can we have a code? And sure enough, we get codes. And not only would we get codes for that game, any future games that would come out, they would give us codes. So it was like even after the website we worked for was shut down and we stopped doing the podcast, I kept getting codes. So the one day I had to email them and go, hey, I don't do this anymore. You can stop. It's fine. But I was always like surprised that there's no system out there that they can go by and saying these are reputable, this is not reputable, this is a person with, let's say, a low reach. This is somebody that has a ton of people following him, so we definitely want him to have it. Like, I'm surprised there's no system there that a PR agency or a game maker can look to and say, yeah, give keys to these people, don't give them to these people. And like I said, I was shocked. I was really shocked by how easy it was. I think to this day I still get codes from way back when we used to write for that website. So yeah, it's pretty funny. And
Yeah,
this guy was
and
smart. Go ahead.
it's a bit ironic too because so the Curator Connect function from Steam gives the ability for uh, game developers to directly link access to, I believe it's a list of supposedly Steam approved curators, but unfortunately, some of the curators on that list they haven't been active for years. So that's yet another problem that is on Valve to fix. And then on top of that, for the Curator Connect, you're limited to only 100 100 access distributions
Mhm.
for your game. Uh, so it's a bit sad because, of course, if you have a curator who's very active but maybe has a small audience of, I don't know, maybe 500 to 1,000 Steam gamers following that particular curator, they may not be on the Steam curator access list.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, they get left out. But on the other hand, you might have these really scummy resellers masquerading as uh, curators who potentially could be on the list, but of course they're not going to want to have a they're not going to want curator access. They're going to want full blown keys that they can turn around and sell immediately for profit.
Right.
So it's one of those things that when I was seeing independent game developers talking about this, their thought was, you know, Valve really needs to try to clean up this whole curator thing because you've got you've got some really good curators who might have a small audience, but they're plenty active and either update once or twice a week, or maybe even every day if they're that obsessed about video games, and that would make genuinely good candidates for the um, curator access program. And then you have like just the really terrible curator pages. Like I think one of the ones that got a lot of mention on social media was one of the terrible curator accounts is does the game have a dog? And if the game had a dog, it was just like, yes, recommend because game has dog. And then it'd be like, if the game didn't have a dog, 0 out of 10, no doggos found. And it was just like, yeah, I could see why that would get a lot of gripes from game developers because yeah, just they're not evaluating the game on its merits of gameplay or just storytelling or anything. It's just literally just playing on a meme, and that's about it for just some of these terrible curator accounts. And then of course now there's the whole bit of just key resellers exploiting the curator program to basically make it look like that they seem like a legit video game reviewer or whatnot.
Yeah. So, what do you think? Should they just stick with the Curator Connect on Steam, or what should these? Because it's independent. It's independent game studios that have to do this a lot. That they have to send out keys to probably smaller publications to get as much press as possible. The bigger ones like EA and Ubisoft don't have to do this at all. They can just use Steam Connect, and they only worry about the big ones, really. So, what do you think is going to be going forward? What people will have to do to prevent something like this?
Unfortunately for game developers, because the Steam Curator Connect is so limited in its reach, and there's only so many curators that you can give access to. Unfortunately, independent developers are just going to have to do a little bit better on vetting who deserves a key and who doesn't. Or they can do the similar play that the developer of Brok the Investigator did, and just send a demo key and put in the fine print of their email saying, hey, I'd almost say just make it like a literature pop quiz or something. Tell us what happens in this pivotal scene, and if you saw this exact pivotal scene, we'll give you a full key or whatever.
Yeah.
So, just there might be some sort of clever plays, or maybe even some sort of like generated system generated seed or something that the reviewer has to get to, and then turn in that seed for like a full code or something. Just at least until Valve decides to get off their butt and just clean up the curation program and make it so that there's a little bit more freedom for independent developers to provide access directly to the curators. I don't know, just this is a really difficult situation, because as at the same time, I get it. Just an independent developer just doesn't want to say, yeah, I'm not giving keys to anyone, because you're sending a key request from like this random ass Gmail account or something.
Yeah.
Just I can definitely see indie developers not wanting to do that, because you don't know that small indie developer might be running a small budding Twitch channel where maybe their whole shtick is that they check out indie games all day. But at the same time, you also don't know that person may not be a key seller. But at the same time, you also have some of these key sellers giving themselves away, because a lot of these key resellers have been getting real greedy and saying, oh yeah, I need 3 to 5 keys because I'm going to be doing a giveaway on my Twitch stream, or I need 3 to 5 keys because I need all of my staff for my video game review site to review this game, and I need to get scores from all 5 of the staff members or something like that. Mm-hmm. Just really, really obvious tells that they're overplaying their hand.
I guess developers have to be a little more careful, and until Steam does something better, I mean, yeah, you're going to have to do clever things like this to make sure your game doesn't wind up on some resellers. So that sucks.
It's been a very fascinating saga to follow, just right. Especially since I had heard of stories of just key resellers basically bombarding independent developers, constantly badgering them for free keys and stuff like that, and just to see that there was sort of like a free key cartel going on of these resellers basically exploiting the Steam curator groups, and coincidentally, all of the admins in a lot of these groups share admin permissions throughout multiple of these groups. It was just kind of a fascinating saga to see unfold out.
All right, Zero, so we are at the end of this podcast, and as always, I would have a question for you, but I don't this week. What we're doing this week, and we're going to do from now on, is at the final week of the month, we are going to discuss the new releases for the following months and our thoughts on how it will sell, how it will do, what we think the reviews will possibly, just ancillary things like that. So why don't we start going over the new releases that are going to happen in September? Zero, I think we should just start with the first big game that is going to be released on the 2nd, which is this Friday, and that's the remake of The Last of Us Part 1. A lot of talk has basically been that the most talk I've seen about it is the debate of whether the new stuff they're putting into the game is worth the hefty $70 price tag. So what do you think about that, and how do you think sales are going to go with this?
I think sales are going to be pretty dismal, mostly because of the fact that, one, um, it's just a game getting a shiny coat of paint on it, and two, there are features being subtracted out of the original release and not going to be a part of this. And there was talk that just some of the stuff would be its own separate download or potentially DLC, which just had me scratching my head. It was just kind of like, why? You're giving less value, but you're charging more? That is just pants on head stupid.
Yeah. No, that's the case. That is very, very true. The only thing that will prevent me from saying this will be dismal is the fact that it's being released on PC. So if it's being released on PC, I can see those sales being quite high because, of course, PC players who don't have PlayStation consoles haven't played it yet. So they will probably be snatching this pretty quick. I don't think sales will be dismal. I don't think it's going to be a big hit, but I think it will be... It will meet sales expectations, I think. I think Sony will be okay with it because I don't think they're actually expecting big sales from this. I think they want modest sales from it to help boost the multiplayer game that's coming out next year and the TV series that's coming out next year on HBO. I think we've talked about it before, and I think that's what this is going to be for. This is basically them releasing this as a means to boost those two things. That's my opinion, at least. So I think sales is actually ancillary on this, and I think the reviews of it, people are saying that the Metacritic score is probably going to be around 90 to 95. I would say more 85 to 89. I think a lot of reviewers, some will still praise it and say, oh, it's a great story, this and that, blah, 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 blah. But I think a lot of reviewers are going to be forced to reckon with the fact that they're playing a game that's easily playable still on the PS5 through the PS4 remaster, and nothing's changed in the story. So I think that's going to be discussed a lot in reviews, and that will drive the review scores down. So, yeah. We'll move on to another game. Lego Brawls is coming out this week on September 2nd for PS5, Xbox Series X, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. I know a lot of hardcore gamers or enthusiast gamers have never probably even heard of this or don't even care, but there's two reasons to talk about this. One, it's a Smash Brothers clone, and there's a lot of them coming out, especially with multiverses. And two, it's a Lego branded game, and Lego is a big brand, so they're going to have that behind them as well. I think this will make as much as the Nickelodeon game that came out, maybe a little less, but unless it's a really good quality game, I don't see this selling very well, especially with multiverses out there and being as popular as it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, the retail price is $40 for it.
That's not bad.
So, yeah, I mean, the price isn't bad, but really just it'll be interesting to see how it fares. And I'm probably in the same camp as you. It's probably not going to blow multiverses out of the water, especially since just multiverses has a very, very low price of entry being free and all. So, yeah, there's some grind with multiverses, but I mean, just they're counting on the fact that you're going to hate the grind and pay up and get one of the crazy founders packs, but that's a whole discussion on its own.
Yeah. Moving on. Disney Dreamlight Valley is coming out on the 6th. PC, PS4, Xbox One, Switch. I'm not sure. Isn't this the Harvest Moon Stardew Valley like with Disney characters? Am I right on
I think
that?
so. I think
Yeah.
so.
I don't see this selling very well. Even with people who are into Disney. I don't see this as I don't see this selling well at all. I mean, a lot of word of mouth caused Stardew Valley to become a big seller. I don't think it's permeated the mainstream as much as people think it has. I think, and if it has, I think people are just going to say, well, I still have Stardew Valley, so who cares? I don't see this selling very well, is my thing. And reviewing very well, I don't think so either. So,
Yeah, a lot of the Disney branded games in the last couple years haven't been doing so hot. I think the last two games that I can remember is the one that's kind of like a Sims like where you explore Disney World, and it was something that you could play on Xbox Game Pass, and then you had the Switch branded or the Switch release only game, which was the Disney Tsum game, which that one was trying to sort of be like Mario Party with little based on the little Tsum plushies,
mhm.
and even that didn't review too well either. So
Yeah.
yeah, just I don't foresee this one magically being some sort of hit overnight.
NBA 2K23 is coming out. This is a quick one. This is going to sell gangbusters as usual. They announced that they are expanding on some My Team stuff, and they're getting rid of contracts. Thank the fucking Lord for that, because that was a bullshit thing that they did. Do you know what the contract system was on NBA 2K23?
Not offhand.
Basically, when you get cards, the players, each of them have a contract value, and the contract value is the number of games you can play with them until that number goes down. When that hits 0, you can't use that card until you buy contracts for that card.
So, oh God,
and
that just sounds like rental weapons from like a free-to-play shooter. Jesus.
Yeah, essentially. And the only way to get contracts is to either spend VC, spend My Team tokens, or get them in packs. So you would have to spend money to use the cards that you've already used in times, just so you can use the players that you've gotten through those blind packs. That's the contract system in NBA 2K23. So, yeah. They're taking that out, which, thank the fucking Lord, it still is a ridiculous money grab game. But, yeah, it will sell fantastically, of course. Anything more to add?
Just hopefully anyone who cares about NBA 2K has a good time with it.
Yeah.
It's not my kind of game, so I can't really say much.
As much as I am a fan of MLB The Show, I think the gameplay in NBA is better, but just the amount of money it tries to siphon from you is so unattractive to me, I stopped playing it. So, I love the gameplay. I can't stand the monetization. That's why I stopped. Splatoon 3 is coming out on September 9th, same day. We talked about this off the podcast. We like Splatoon. We've liked Splatoon 2. But neither of us really are interested in buying this because it looks great, but it's Splatoon, and it hasn't really changed that much. I think the most they're doing is they're making the salmon run available at all times, I think is the big thing too. So, okay, that's cool, but for another $60, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean there are some good things that are happening. So, one of the big positives, and this is huge in my opinion, the game will be saving your player data via the cloud servers.
Okay.
So no more no more situations where if your Switch had to go in for warranty work or for a repair that required the technician to do a full reset of your Switch console, that you would lose all of your data. And that happened repeatedly for people who played Splatoon 2,
Oh god,
where
that's
just
terrible.
yeah, if you had some sort of weird warranty issue and you had to send your console back, yeah, um you always hated the dreaded email from the technician saying, "Hey, due to the situation with your Switch console, we have to reset the data. Please reply whether or not you agree to allow us to reset your Switch console." One of the most dreaded messages to get,
That's
and
terrible.
especially because when that happened, you couldn't re-download your data from a cloud backup because Splatoon 2 was blocked from cloud uploads, and then there was no server to save your progress on. So if you had like a weapon that took you um, hours or hundreds of hours to unlock, yeah, you had to start back over from ground zero again.
Hmm.
And yeah, it just annoyed the hell out of people. And it just had a lot of people asking, "Hey, will um will there be some sort of cloud backup because um it's really crappy for just to have to start completely over from scratch just because as of this dumb thing, and we can't restore our data. There's no cloud backup, just there's absolutely fucking nothing that we can do about this." And of course, just they finally confirmed in one of the Nintendo social media posts that yeah, in Splatoon 3 they will be saving data to the cloud. So no more worrying about that sort of thing, which is just great. Just happy to see it. And um, the other uh, the other big thing that just was revealed recently, because the Splatoon network test was this weekend, was cheaters are getting banned pretty seriously. And not only do these seem to be console bans, but they may potentially also be Nintendo Online bans too.
Oh wow.
And because some cheaters decided to fuck around and try to see if some of their cheats that they developed would work in Splatoon 3. And well, they quickly found out early in the weekend, yeah, it looks like Nintendo has started their anti-cheat wave against cheaters pretty seriously, even if this isn't the full retail release, because several cheaters got banned and started lamenting about it. And of course, people were just like, "Well, this may have restored my faith in Splatoon 3, and I might be brave enough to venture online and play the game for once."
Yeah, that's good. Okay, but are you going to purchase it, or am I right in saying you're probably not going to pick it up?
Um, Likely I'll probably wait for it to go on sale, mostly because I do quite like the Splatoon single player. It's really good, it's really fun, especially with just some of the boss fights. Some of the boss fights are just absolutely fantastic, and they demand so much mastery from the player on just the mechanics and everything. It's just a blast to play. But yeah, I really don't see myself doing what I did a few years ago with Splatoon 2 and just pouring hours and hours of my nights just playing online and unlocking my favorite weapons and stuff like that. I just don't see it in me.
Next up, this game made a big splash at this year's Steam Next Fest around the not E3 time. It's Metal Hellsinger. It's coming out the 15th. I don't know the price offhand. I can look that up while you talk. But from everything I've heard from people who played the game and played the demo, they loved this game. They thought it was really cool and were willing to put their money where their mouth is when it came out. There's no price for it. I think this will sell pretty well if the reviews come out to be very positive. Did you play it? What did you think of it?
Oh yeah, I played quite a bit of it, the demo when it was available for the Steam Next Fest, and it was real fun, especially since I do appreciate metal music and everything. It definitely seemed like what bullets per minute was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
because bullets per minute, while it was very fun, it just was just so bland with its color choice, just lots and lots of browns and reds.
Yeah.
Whereas Metal Hellsinger, it's got like just a huge burst of color. You've got like blues and grays from the icy environment that they have you in. There's lots of um, red and black for some of the fire scorched brimstone areas that you're in. Just lots and lots of fun, and the music synchronization piece just feels so good because when you sort of nail the feel and rhythm of just whatever song um, is backing you and everything, just once you get into, for lack of a better way of putting it, a killing groove, you just go. You just kind of go with the flow, and it just feels so good when you get that crazy 16x kill chain, and just the entire song's unlocked and it's just playing and you're just slaughtering demons left and right. It's just a damn treat to play.
Yeah.
So this one will be really interesting to see because I'm most certainly looking forward to it. So depending on price, I may pick it up day one. I may not. We'll have to see.
The Diafield Chronicle, PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, PS4, Xbox One, Switch. Uh, this obviously is not the Final Fantasy Tactics that I was looking for, but I am interested in this. Let me check the price real quick. Um, yeah, like I'm a big strategy fan. So if this turns out to be good, this might be a purchase for me. Oh, it's not on PC.
It
Yeah.
is. It's on Steam. $60 for the regular edition, and then 75 for the digital deluxe edition on
Huh,
Steam.
I just searched it, it didn't come up. Okay, so $60. Because I put F twice. If this turns out to get good reviews, I will probably pick this up. Because I really want a good strategy game. So I'm definitely interested in what they're doing in this. Especially since the remake of Tactics Ogre is going to be $50, and they're not changing much of this. I'd rather purchase it on a good new one. So I'm interested in Diefield Chronicle.
Yeah, and this one is interesting as well too because of the fact that movement is not bound by a grid system anymore. It is literal 3D free-flowing movement.
Yeah,
So that's what makes things a little bit more interesting, and potentially there's a high chance of just um, making battles a little bit extra challenging because you have to think in a more spatial sort of sense now instead of going, okay, I think this move is going to hit the front facing forward three grids, but this attack also goes diagonally, so I could potentially hit my allies. Okay, I need to weigh in if giving one of my allies a little bit of damage might be worth the full payout and everything.
yeah.
So definitely interested to see how this one pans out. The cool thing is that there is a demo for it, and I believe, if I remember correctly, I believe the demo does have save file information that will transfer to the final retail copy. So if you're
Okay.
interested, I would say definitely pull the demo down and just check it out and see if it's for you. And if it is, maybe throw down some cash for the pre-purchase or hold off until you feel a little bit more confident on buying it if there's a sale or something.
Yeah, I'm weird with demos, man, because I would rather. I understand people would like to have the demos months before it releases. I'm not that way because if I like something, I want to play it now, and if I can't play it now, I feel less compelled to actually replay the game after the demo. And I know this demo carries your save progress, but it's a flow thing, you know. Like I would rather have the full game on top. Like I have the full game available. So if I like the demo, I'll purchase it and then continue for where I left off. Then play it now, then wait 3 weeks, and then get the full game, and then have to remember, okay, what happened in this part? What did I learn at that in that part? I don't quite remember. That's just me though. I am in the minority in that, but that's good that it has a demo. So that's good. That's coming September 15th. September 22nd, Slime Rancher 2 is being released, but I believe it's in early access. It's PC and Xbox Series X. I just checked the thing now on Steam, and it says early access game. There's no price. So, yeah, they're expecting this to be at least 18 months in development. So, yeah, it's technically releasing, but it's in early access. And I think I talked about it earlier with my thoughts on early access games. So basically, I just want it done. I want to play it when it's completed. But I really like Slime Rancher 1. So if this turns out to be a decent price for the game, I might just do my pick it up, and then when it's completed, I'll play it. So, yeah, that's my feeling on it, at least. What about yours?
Yeah, just Slime Rancher 1, I had quite a bit of fun with, but it was one thing that I unfortunately had to be very careful with because um, there was one time where just um, I had felt a little sick and everything, um, and I was kind of hemming and hawing between in just if I was going to call out of my job because I was feeling kind of crappy. And I was just like, okay, well, just since this is a sick night, I'm gonna go play some Slime Rancher and just try to relax. Well, what was going to be, oh, I'll just play an hour of Slime Rancher, no big deal. Yeah, it quickly turned into 5, and by the time I knew
Yeah.
it soon after, I saw the sun rising. I was just like, oh god. Well, I think I should probably call out of
Yep.
work because this is not a good idea
Nope.
to work with maybe 2 hours of sleep.
Oh, yeah, I remember when that used to happen to me. That didn't happen. Well, it kind of happened with me with Slime Rancher, but yeah, Slime Rancher is very addictive, especially when you go out in the world a little more, and you start exploring to find new types of slime. So, yeah, I'd be interested in it. I wonder what the price is going to be. I think if it's $20 on early access, I'll pick it up, and then I'll just sit on it until it's done. So, yeah. I want to also point out Temtem is coming out on full release on September 6th. So, and that is the Pokemon like card collector game. And mainly I'm interested in Temtem because one, I've heard good things about it. And two, I am so unhappy with the direction of the Pokemon games that I'm dying to play a game like that. And this seems right up my alley. So I'm interested in how this turns out. Specifically, I don't know if you purchased it or you're interested in it at all, but that's my thing on this. So yeah,
Think Temtem I'm not too interested because just the reason I play Pokemon is the memorable monsters.
yeah,
Just I've had a lot of history with the monsters and everything, so
hmm
so there's that and everything. And I know they've been kind of talking a big game on how hey, we're paying attention to what the competitive players want and stuff like that. And I mean, I get it. A lot of people like the Pokemon battles, but they want a little bit more meat and bones to the battling and everything. But battling's not really my primary motivation when I play Pokemon. I'm the weird Pokemon biologist that likes to try to collect up as many monsters as I can and everything. So yeah, just for me, that's where my loyalties lay.
yeah. Okay, like you can't deny that the first gen Pokemon or some of the most memorable characters. Like my favorites are Bulbasaur and Eevee. So I have the very few Funko Pops I actually have are Bulbasaur and Eevee, and that's it really. Because honestly, Funko Pops look terrible. I can't stand the look at them. But I like the Eevee and Bulbasaur one. So I can't find the Bulbasaur one. I think my nephew took it. Huh. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it. You're not. That's your problem, not mine. So there. What else?
There's also
Go ahead.
The Legend of Heroes, which comes out on the 27th to PS5, PS4, and Switch. This one is going to be another one of those that's part of the illustrious Legend of Heroes games and everything. So if you're into that, it's probably just going to be more of what you like and everything. Probably 30 to 40 hours worth of story. So for the anime RPG fans, this is probably going to be just more of what you love and everything. I haven't kept up, but I know one of the main translators who had been working on the Trails of the Sky games and stuff like that. She ended up leaving. Um, I believe it was Exceed Games or NIS. I forget which. Um, but I know she had left, and there was a lot of concern whether or not the translations would be as consistent as they had been under her supervision. So I can't speak to whether or not this game will be localized with just as much care. So take that for what you will.
Right.
And
This
then
is this is the middle part between Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky and Legend of Heroes Cold Steel, right? This is the middle part?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I
Yeah.
believe this is the middle part of the saga.
Okay. Okay, I mean, there are people who are hardcore fans of that series. I tried to get into both versions and I bounced off of them. I'm not saying they're bad. I think they're very good. But I just I just bounced off. And I may get back to it, but yeah. They're good. So anyway, anything
The
more to add on that?
next the next release that's pretty much 2 days away from that is Valkyrie Elysium
Yes.
on September 29th. PS5, PS4, PC.
PC's in November, isn't it?
Yes, the PC release is delayed, however, into November.
Okay.
But this one, I don't know how quite to feel because it looks like it's going the more action combat route with the ability to sort of order an NPC that follows you and assists you to do certain things like, hey, go on the offensive and attack and tank for me. Hey, stay back and heal. So, I mean, it might be good, might not be great. It's really hard to say because unfortunately the Valkyrie games have not really had the best of care taken to them.
No.
And that gets into another point that is a bit of a gripe for me, which is um, the PS4 and PS5 version of Valkyrie Elysium. If you decide to go with the digital deluxe edition, you'll get a copy of Valkyrie Profile, which is a one-to-one port job of the PSP version. So don't expect any sort of magical bells and whistles that clean up the graphics or anything. But what really gets my goat is that there has been no word or confirmation if the PC version is getting this. And if you go to the Steam page, the mention of Valkyrie Profile, the PSP game, is completely left out.
Oh, so
So
that sounds like it's not coming.
yeah, that would be my bet that it's probably not going to come to PC, which, again, it's a real damn shame because of the fact that just Valkyrie Profile 1 or Valkyrie Profile Lenneth, as the PSP one was titled, it was a really good game.
Yes.
Yeah, it had its quirks. Yeah, it's sort of a um, antique of its time, but it was still a fantastic game with the tactical turn-based combat with the combos and the combo chains, and then the twisted weird soul super attacks. Just nothing but a fun time. And it's also plenty challenging because you can't get the true ending if you play the game on easy. You have to play it on either hard or normal in order to get the true ending. So, um, which again, it's a bit of a shame that Square Enix is taking a very lazy sort of port and not adding any sort of quality of life changes because the save points in that game are very few and far between.
Yes.
So I would have loved to have seen like a quality of change feature where just you can save and suspend the game at any time, but maybe that's just a little bit of a crazy expectation on my part.
The PSP port didn't have that. I didn't play Lenneth. I was lucky enough to get it on PS1 when it came out, and of course, like a dumbass, I sold it. But I beat it on there, and I remember what you're saying. It was the save system was pretty sparse in that, but didn't the PSP version have some kind of updates along those lines, or did you play it the same way I did?
I played it both on PlayStation and PSP,
Oh, okay.
and unfortunately, just the PSP one was just kind of a real bare bone straight port,
Oh.
and there unfortunately really wasn't any sort of like save mechanic to allow you to save anywhere. Um, I mean, some people may nitpick and go, "Well, um, you could just put the PSP to sleep. No big deal, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's just not the same."
Yeah.
So,
No, I agree.
but yeah, just it pains me that it's just one, it's kind of a lazy straight port, and then two, just it's likely being skipped on PC. That kind of gets my goat.
A Valkyrie Profile, I believe, is going to have a separate release later on down the road. So if you don't want to get, Elysium, which some are not really thrilled about the Elysium, but are willing to. I've heard people who are willing to get Elysium just to get Valkyrie Profile. And I was one of them until I saw the price. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. So, yeah. I really want to play this game again. This is such a great game. But to spend $75 in a game that I don't think is going to be that hot, that's a stretch for me, at least. But yeah, I'm definitely interested. Hopefully it turns out well, but I'm not really I'm not really optimistic, I would say. It seems like an interesting month. Not a lot of big stuff coming out, but there is a bunch of small stuff that we didn't get into, but we didn't get into it because we'd be here another hour. So, yeah, I mean, this looks like it's going to be an interesting month. I think October will probably be the big month. But we'll get to that when it comes. All right, Zero. Well, that will be the end of this episode of the Capital Games Podcast. Tune in next week as we discuss the going-ons and happenings in all aspects of the gaming industry. I am The Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
And we'll talk to you next week.